Most Starbucks stores in Manhattan were closed today out of what the company says is an abundance of caution.
Getting your Starbucks fix tomorrow. The coffee chain is closing hundreds of its stores nationwide.
Mayor Mamdani is in a state of absolute panic as Starbucks abandons New York, leaving the city in chaos. Despite his calls for proper contracts and fair treatment of workers, the coffee giant walked away instead of negotiating. This unprecedented corporate retreat is shaking the city to its core, leaving chaos, lost jobs, and unanswered questions in its wake.
Struggling with coffee competition and inflation, Starbucks now is running out of steam, you might say, and laying off hundreds of workers.
They actually just I can't even believe this. This is odd. This is something that usually happens when a company goes bankrupt. They just shut the store down, put a sign in the window saying we're closed.
Dozens of Starbucks stores across Manhattan and New York City suddenly shut their doors, leaving streets unusually quiet. High-profile locations that once drew long lines now stand empty. It's not just about missing coffee. Commuters, office workers, and families feel the impact. Concerns over transit disruptions for employees add another layer, showing the human cost of corporate decisions. A city so accustomed to its coffee culture is suddenly in chaos.
After nearly 3 decades, one of the most iconic Starbucks in the entire city has closed its doors for good. As to a reason why, it depends on who you ask.
The reasons behind these closures go far beyond foot traffic. Tariffs on coffee imports have surged, pushing costs through the roof. Starbucks doesn't grow coffee in the US, and raw bean prices have spiked dramatically. Combine that with rising wages, unionized stores demanding higher pay, and other operational costs, and running a Manhattan store becomes a financial nightmare. Leases make things worse. Walking away still means paying rent, piling on losses. Even profitable operations can become unsustainable under extreme financial pressure. History in New York shows similar patterns. Packed restaurants have closed when landlords jacked up rents, and owners refused to pass costs onto customers.
Starbucks just filing an 8K that says its board has approved a restructuring plan that will involve the closure of coffee houses and further transformation of the company's support organization as part of its Back to Starbucks strategy under CEO Brian Niccol.
The company's 2026 strategy under CEO Brian Niccol reveals why these tough choices are happening. The Back to Starbucks plan involves restructuring, closing underperforming stores, and revamping its support organization. About $1 billion in expenses are tied to closures, transformation, and restructuring, 90% in North America.
Majority of store closures are going to be completed by the end of the fiscal year, and estimates that it will incur approximately $1 billion related to the store closures, support organization transformation, and other restructuring activities. About 90% of those expenses are going to be attributable to the North America business.
How does a global giant like Starbucks reach a point where even Manhattan locations aren't worth keeping open?
But now just about all of them will be closing in a matter of hours, days, including this one right behind me. Actually, hundreds will be closing across North America.
Adding another layer is the protest factor. Most Manhattan Starbucks stores closed preemptively ahead of potential protests. The company cited safety concerns and transit disruption risks. No major incidents occurred, but the closures reflect a tense city atmosphere, where labor unrest, public dissent, and operational risk collide. This shows how even major corporations can be fragile when the stakes are high.
Strategy, this filing says, focuses on revitalizing the coffee houses and enhancing the customer experience. The filing also says the company assessed its existing store portfolio with respect to both whether its coffee houses had a viable path to offering the physical environment that they feel is consistent with the brand and a clear path to financial performance.
The combination of skyrocketing input costs, union pressures, and lease obligations creates a perfect storm. Executives analyzed every number, weighing continued operations against losses. In some stores, it simply wasn't worth it. Employees saw workplaces shuttered, customers lost routines, and city officials scrambled. The $1 billion restructuring represents thousands of lives affected, livelihoods disrupted, and a city forced to adapt. For Mayor Mamdani, the sudden closures are an immediate political and social challenge.
The company is also working to build a stronger and more resilient Starbucks, it says, and prioritizes investment closer to the coffee house and the customer, and further restructuring its support organization.
Many New Yorkers assume Starbucks can absorb these costs, but the reality is stark. Tariffs, wages, and operational pressures collide, forcing hard decisions. The closures are strategic, financially driven, and targeted, yet the optics are dramatic. Streets once bustling now feel abandoned. The tension between corporate survival and public expectation is clearer than ever.
Dozens of stores across New York City, and again, high-profile locations. All the landlords, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And city officials, oh my God, you got to make sure you follow the rules, and your employees have got to go find somewhere else to go.
Ultimately, Starbucks' retreat highlights more than just coffee. Safety concerns, protests, rising costs, and restructuring intersect, shocking the city and leaving residents questioning what comes next. Mayor Mamdani's panic is understandable. This isn't just coffee disappearing. It's a sign of how volatile urban corporate life has become.
Seattle-based coffee company announced Thursday it's closing about 400 stores.
The shockwaves from Starbucks' Manhattan retreat didn't just hit a few empty storefronts. They rippled through the entire city like a spilled cup of hot coffee across Times Square. Meanwhile, smaller cafes and independent coffee shops braced for an unexpected surge in demand, but not the kind of surge you'd want. Some saw a boost in customers, yes, but others couldn't handle the sudden rush, running out of beans, milk, and patience within hours. Delivery services too felt it. Orders backed up, drivers running frantic routes while suppliers scrambled to meet spikes in demand.
Those prices just went through the roof. Now, again, I'm going to explain this in terms of business people just don't understand.
And let's not forget the bigger picture. High costs, skyrocketing tariffs, unionized wages, and jaw-dropping leases revealed just how fragile even massive operations can be. Starbucks may be profitable globally, but when the math of Manhattan hits, sometimes it's just not worth the effort.
Is it worth the effort having this business? Is it worth the effort having this store?
And then there's the political subplot. Government versus the free market. Tariffs, wage laws, labor regulations, they're all squeezing input costs, like a barista trying to fit too much foam in a cup. The question becomes, should senators step in to subsidize coffee imports just to save citywide caffeine habits? The irony is delicious. Starbucks, the behemoth of coffee capitalism, is getting smacked around by policies meant to regulate fairness, not drive corporations into existential panic. New York City has now become the cautionary tale, a city where rising costs, well-meaning regulations, and urban chaos can force even giants to retreat.
They did lay off about 1,100 employees, many of them corporate headquarters earlier this year, and they are going through those cafe uplifts. They've done they're projecting rather about 1,000 of them will be kind of revamped.
Amid the numbers and politics, the human stories hit hardest. Baristas who memorized your order, managers juggling schedules, corporate employees suddenly without work. They're the faces behind the spreadsheets. Families depended on those paychecks. Neighborhoods relied on those stores. And suddenly, the ripple effect hits socially as well as economically.
Really upset because it was so convenient. The 6 trains right here, the M8 is nearby. I just used to love going here all the time.
Local cafes tried to step in, but the surge of demand wasn't always welcome. Queues wrapped around blocks while exhausted staff desperately refilled espresso machines. And the psychological impact? A city that never sleeps now doesn't have coffee. Panic, confusion, and caffeine withdrawal are real forces in Manhattan. Mayor Mamdani's scramble isn't just political theater. It reflects the human cost of economics that sometimes forgets people entirely.
It's all part of a restructuring plan amid growing competition, inflation, and changing consumer tastes and communities.
Starbucks' Manhattan exit isn't just a story about closures. It's about a city adjusting to sudden absence, a market revealing its fragility, and the very real human faces caught in the crossfire. The streets are quieter, the lattes harder to find, and the city's pulse just a little slower, reminds everyone that economics isn't abstract. It's felt in empty cups, stressed baristas, and the occasional muttered curse when someone realizes their coffee stop has vanished.
It's absurd. It's the timing of not having any notice. It's devastating because it's a part of our routines.
What's next for Starbucks and New York City? Some stores may never reopen, permanently leaving neighborhoods that once relied on them. The Back to Starbucks strategy focuses on profitable locations, cafe upgrades, and customer experience, which means underperforming stores could be gone for good. The economic fallout is real. City revenue takes a hit, jobs vanish, and the urban culture of grabbing a morning latte disappears block by block. The scale of this disruption is unprecedented. Tariffs, wages, leases, corporate layoffs, and protest fears have all collided, forcing a citywide pullout. It's a cautionary tale about how fragile urban business ecosystems can be, even for global giants. New Yorkers are left asking, how sustainable is the city's business environment when even Starbucks can't survive the costs?